Secret texts, twisted views. Time to separate lies from truth. Not here to burn, but here to see what survives when the mind breaks free. Deconstruct, analyze, open hearts, open eyes. If it falls, let it be. What remains is meant to be. Cyber deconstruction, let's get real. Faith when challenge starts to peel. If it's built on solid ground, why scared to stick around? Not for hate, but for the wise. Truth won't shatter, only lies. Time to start the conversation. Now ain't the time to pretend nothing happened.
Welcome in, welcome in. Let's start tapping that screen, sharing the live. And yes, this is probably how the lives are going to be starting every time. Getting some time for people to come on in. How you doing, Brandon? If you're not following Brandon Parsons down there, give Brandon a follow. Or down there, give Brandon a follow. How you doing, Hanji?
Hey, I'm surprised you're having an early live today. Did
Ah,
you
you
sleep at
know,
all?
yes, I slept. I slept and woke up.
Yeah. I don't know, because we had a pretty late night last night.
So yeah, just waiting for people to get on in. We've got 9 people over on YouTube watching. If you do want to join over on YouTube, there is a link in the description. Click that link, and I'd be more than happy to bring you up, and we can have a talk where everybody can hear you. I probably will need to, as a matter of fact, let me start doing that, because I think in order to bring over people with YouTube for it to flow good, I think I have to start overclocking my computer. So let me start overclocking it now, so we can do that. Because, well, Joshy over on YouTube, Christianity is false. Hop on up, click the link. Let's talk about it. But let me get my computer overclocking first. We'll do a plus 25 and a plus 25. So we are overclocking the computer now. Joshy, hop on up. Let's talk about it. Muafiz? I am an atheist. I'm an atheist. That's the reason why we're crucifying monster cans over here. Got Rolly coming on up.
Yay, Ronnie, you made it.
Good mornings.
Good morning. So yeah, we've got 12 people over on YouTube. Chat, if you're Christian, remember 1 Peter chapter 3 verse 15 does state that if your faith is in fact being challenged, you must give a defense for it. So hop on up, let's talk about it. Joshi, that is absolutely not true. There is no sequence that spells Yahweh. That's a goofy thing to say. You can't provide any evidence for that. That is a talking point that you have heard, and you have no way to support it. Man, people over here on YouTube already being goofy. Got Joshy over there saying, but the human genome spells Yahweh.
Oh God, people still run with that argument?
They do. They do.
Ugh.
In fact, so the question is, so when we look at the genome, right, it has a C, G, and T. How do you get Yahweh out of C, G, and T when those are also letters that are part of the genome? Definitely not spelling Yahweh there, my dude. And the letters in DNA and the genome, those are quite literally just arbitrary. Yeah, I did just search it up. Yeah, so C, G, and T are also in the genome. Those aren't part of Yahweh. And the letters are completely arbitrary. They could have just chosen like blah, 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 and beep, boop, beep, beep to be the letters of the genome. Like, you're goofy. You just don't know what you're talking about. You got in here, you woke up and said, I'm going to say some stupid shit over YouTube. Yes, but the Shroud of Turin. The Shroud. Somebody in a debate yesterday, I don't think it was Jaren. I'm trying to remember which live it was on. It wasn't Jaren's, I don't think. But they brought up the Shroud, and when the person was like, that's not true, they're like, oh, well, but anyways, and then they just wanted to move on from it. Yes, Lauren, over on YouTube, it is absolutely absurd. They're just goofy. They're goofy. They want to find any reason for it. And it's goofy. It's just goofy. But I know for a fact that Joshy won't hop over in the link description. That's in the description to hop over on YouTube to talk about this. I'd say all Abrahamic religions are false over on YouTube. They're all false. Moses never existed. We have no reason to believe that there is a God. Just not a reason to believe that. And if a God does exist, it's definitely not the Abrahamic God. The Abrahamic God falls victim to the problem of evil. Got Level Devil in the house. Hanji's in the house. Taylor is here. We've got Joycia's here. We have Michael's here. Double Donkey is here. JB's here. Got some awesome people hanging out here this morning. No, Joshy over on YouTube. I don't think the universe just popped out of nowhere. I think the universe has just always existed. I believe if we take a look at the Deci study, which should have another study coming out, it's probably going to show that the dark energy is starting to decelerate, which means that we could be living in a universe that goes through a series of big bangs, big crunches, and big bounces. So I'm super excited to see what that study reveals, though. And yes, JB, absolutely. Praise Doug, the rock god, the rock of our salvation. Well, Jossie, I just explained that the universe has just always existed. Crunch. Yes, Big Crunch, correct. Level Devil is correct over on TikTok. Big Crunch is correct. Got somebody whose name over on YouTube I can't pronounce. Shame on you. Well, shame on you for not getting in the link in the YouTube description. I can bring you over on Video Ninja and we can talk it out. But yeah, the biggest defeater for God, though, is the problem of evil, specifically the problem of evil concerning animals. It's probably the biggest problem with God, problem of evil, the justification of animal suffering when animals had no control over what happened. Yes, we are at 2.9K. Let's get that up to 10. Well, Joseph, hop in the box. We'll talk about it. Joseph, you can go in the link, and in the link you'll see there's a link to join Video Ninja, and we can definitely talk over there, and everybody will be able to hear us talk. We can have this chat, and I can show you the evidence. When it comes to Christianity itself, the biggest evidence for Christianity being not true is that Jesus did not fulfill a single messianic prophecy, and in order for Christianity to be true, it requires that Jesus be the Mashiach. And if he did not fulfill a single prophecy, he is not the Mashiach. Oh, no, Jamil. The argument is the biggest argument, the best argument for the suffering, for the problem of evil is the suffering of animals, because animals don't have free will. They don't have the ability to choose. But yet they're still being punished, according to the Christian worldview, for the actions of Adam and Eve in the garden. Yes, Squish over on YouTube. I am an atheist. Of course, the law is made up by man. Like, I would never dispute that. I 100% believe the laws were made up by man. Shabira, hop in, go down, click the link, join the debate on Discord. Not Discord, on Video Ninja. There's a link in the description. Go ahead and click that. Just make sure you have earbuds, because if you don't have earbuds, everybody's going to hear your echo. And we'll talk about this, but I don't think you will, because Christians, as of late, Christians have been super scared. They don't want to talk. Got Mateo Potato, the petty now. See, that's always a treat. Waking up in the morning and seeing what Mateo has changed his name to.
I swear that man changes his name quicker than a 7 day that they give you. I don't know how he does it, but it's always something different.
It just takes effort. He's a dedicated potato.
But he's best potato. He's most delicious potato.
Oh, I do need to update the hyperlink on here, though. Not the hyperlink, but the link on here. I do need to give that an update real quick, because this URL did change. We'll hit properties. Boom. And if the link's not working, it is on the screen. You should be able to type the screen in, tinyurl.com/cyber-guest. You should be able to click that, and it should take you in if the link isn't working. And it should get you in. Right, they have all decided they need to read their Bibles. That is exactly what they are doing. As a matter of fact, I'm going to check this on my phone real quick. Tiny URL. .com/cyber- guest.
You're muted, Cyber.
The tiny URL link does work. I just checked it on my phone. So yeah, follow the tiny URL link in the video. It's just right up here. Give that a follow and you'll be able to join.
Cyber,
So
can you teach me how to make that the AI song that you did? Can you teach me how to make one?
yeah, I can teach you how to make it.
Yay! Because I want one for dragons and my deities.
You already have one. You already have one for dragons. It's called Trogdor.
Oh my gods. I honestly thought you were gonna go with Dragon Age on that one.
No, nope. My go-to song for dragons is always going to be Trogdor the Burninator. Yeah, Joshi, the reason why I don't believe in Jesus is he didn't fulfill a single messianic prophecy. It's that simple. There's not a single messianic prophecy that you can name that he actually fulfilled. And if you hop on up, we'll definitely talk about it and we'll explain why he didn't fulfill them. But you won't hop in. The link works. I just checked it. Yeah, we are at 4.1K. There's 18 people in here now. Let's keep tapping that screen and sharing it. Let's get this out. Also, if you do want to join on YouTube, here's the link right here. It does work. Give that a type into your browser. We can definitely talk. Micah 5:2 was not fulfilled. Hop in the box. Let's talk about it. What part of Micah 5:2 do you think was fulfilled in Jesus? No. I hold to objective morality based in empathy. Empathy is objective because in order for us to have any kind of dialectic, if it's rational dialectic, it requires you to execute and utilize empathy, and thus empathy does ground it. So I don't know where you get this idea that it is just not grounded. So what we were talking about here, and I'll get this brought up, and we'll talk about why Micah doesn't work. We'll get this brought up. We'll bring up trying to remember where there my window capture is. I'm gonna have to go add the source back in because it's been a minute since I've used it. Go to window capture, properties. Drop this down. Open this. All right, so here's what we're going to talk about with Micah 5:2. So it talks about, but you, O Bethlehem of Ephrathah, this is the oldest ancestor of David. Let me bring that down just a little bit, and we'll this up here. But you, O Bethlehem of Ephrathah, who are one of the little clans of Judah, from you shall come forth for me one who is to rule Israel, right? So the issue is that Jesus never ruled Israel. so Jesus didn't rule Israel, and it says what is going on YouTube right now? Let me see what's going on over here on YouTube right now. Oh, there we go. There we go. Thought I lost my live over there real quick. Here we'll. All right. I thought I looked over there and my screen was black. I was like, what the hell? All right. We'll get back to this. Anyways, but you, O Bethlehem of Ephrathah, who are you, or you who are one of the little clans of Judah? From you shall come forth for me one who is to rule in Israel. Well, Jesus never ruled in Israel. That never happened, so that didn't come true. Whose origin is from of old, from ancient days. Therefore he shall give them up until the time when she who is in labor hath brought forth the rest of his kindred shall return. So kindred is talking about the Israelites. Well, I'm Jewish and I'm not in Israel. So not all of us have returned, and this is talking about the Jewish people as a whole returning to Israel. That hasn't happened. There's more Jewish people outside of Israel than there are in Israel. And he shall stand and feed his flock in strength of the Lord, in the majesty of the name of the Lord, and they shall live secure. For now he shall be great to the ends of the earth, and he shall be one of peace. So with Jesus, the Jewish people did not live secure. In fact, within 100 years of Jesus's supposed crucifixion, the Jews were laid waste. Judea was laid waste, and the Jews were kicked out of Judea. And he shall be the one of peace. Well, this didn't happen as well. Within 70 years of Jesus being crucified, not within 70, but within the first century, within a few decades of Jesus being crucified, there was no peace. The temple was literally destroyed. There has been war this entire time. So it is absolutely true that this was not fulfilled. Not even a little bit. So I don't know where Christians get off thinking Micah 5 fulfilled it. That's not true. Absolutely, Mateo. Partial fulfillment isn't fulfillment. Exactly, Logan. Jesus will never come back because he never existed. And yeah, let me go check. I was reading that. Let's see. Yeah, I've got nobody who called in. My link is up. The link is working. It's right here. If you want to talk, come on up. If you're on YouTube, click this link. Come on in. We can talk. Hop on up. Let's talk about this. I don't know what Gordon Flowers did, but all his messages are being retracted. I don't know who Alex is, but JB's like, go away, Alec. Oh, yeah. Never mind. Gordon Flowers. Yes. Yeah, go away, Alex. Get out of here. Get gone. Gordon won't come up to debate, though. Gordon's going to be a coward. He won't come up to debate. Well, Milk Dispenser, if you take everything based on faith, I have a few bridges I want to sell you. Gordon, I do read in context. I just read words. Words mean words. And you can come up and we can certainly talk about, as a matter of fact, let's bring up a prophecy that's an actual messianic prophecy that Jesus did not fulfill and Jesus can't fulfill. It's impossible for it to be fulfilled right now. Let me get this brought up real quick. It's one of my favorite verses. And as a matter of fact, it's one of the most damning verses for Christians, and they never know how to answer it, and they run away from it. So this is going to be found in Jeremiah 33. And we'll get this brought up on screen. So right here, what we're going to have is verse 14. So it's Jeremiah 33, starting in verse 14. The days are surely coming, says the Lord, when I will fulfill the promise I made to the house of Israel. So this is clearly talking about the future. And the house of Judah. In those days and at that time, I will cause a righteous branch to spring up for David, and he shall execute justice and righteousness in the land. In the days of in those days, Judah will be saved, and Jerusalem will live in safety. Judah will be saved, and Jerusalem will live in safety. Curious that it says that. And the name by which it will be called, the Lord is our righteousness. Now for the meat and potatoes of this. For thus says the Lord, David shall never lack a man to sit on the throne of the house of Israel. Where is the throne in Israel right now? Does David still have a throne? No, he doesn't. There is no king of Israel right now, right? Hasn't been a king for a few thousand years now, so no king of the house of Israel. Right, but more importantly as well is, and the Levitical priests shall never lack a man in my presence. Right, well, this is damning as well because the temple was destroyed. Where the Lord resided was in the temple, specifically with the Ark of the Covenant was his throne. So it was in the Holy of Holies specifically. But there's no temple anymore, thus there's no Levitical priests. So there's nobody in the presence of God right now. And the most damning thing of this prophecy when it comes to Christianity is this goes in the face of what Christianity teaches, that Christ was the final sacrifice. Because God here is telling Jeremiah to offer burnt offerings, to make grain offerings, and to make sacrifices for all time. So this is the prophecy. This is the prophecy that can never be fulfilled. The line of David is lost. We don't know who the line of David is. It's lost. We have the Levitical priests don't exist anymore. The priesthood doesn't exist because the temple's been destroyed. And there's no more burnt offerings. And this ended again at 70 after Jesus was executed a few decades after. So yeah, so this is a prophecy. This is an actual messianic prophecy that can never come true. Well, Gordon, I just started going live on YouTube earlier this week. Like, I haven't been going live for very long, so we got Alex Gordon Flowers over here making comments like, let's go read this real quick. Your lack of subs show us you don't have creative content. I've only been on YouTube for like a week, dude. No, but yeah, Gordon, again, there is a link. You can come up. Don't be a coward. Don't run from the Bible. We'll talk about the Bible. What do you mean you make me relevant? You don't make me relevant. Joycia, I appreciate that so much over here on TikTok. Yeah, I am dual streaming as well for those who don't know. So over on TikTok, Cyber is the best and has the best peeps. I appreciate that. Seeing over here. Jen over on YouTube, I appreciate that so much. You know, and Alex, I don't know if you're still over there, but for you, like I enjoy I don't enjoy your political stance. I think your political stance is absolutely disgusting, but I do appreciate the work you do as far as after going P3DOs. I do appreciate that. But how can you support a God who literally raped a minor? How can you be okay with that? The God that you worship literally raped a minor and impregnated a minor. How can you reconcile that? And yes, fresh Ezekiel bread. True believers do love Ezekiel bread. Absolutely true. Red. Hop in the box. Let's talk about it. Jesus didn't die for us on the cross. Not even a little bit. Didn't die a little bit. I'm a mythicist. I don't even believe he existed. So, yeah, that is true. Why doesn't the church abolish its rapist past? Why does the church like lead in being predators of children? Why is that? I wonder. The YouTube chat is spicy right now. We've got 111 people in there right now. No, it is like this flame right here. I'm not really feeling the flame right now. It's more of like a sauna, like kind of nice. Um, But see, everybody, so if you are on YouTube right now and you do want to join in on the conversation, this is the link right here. Type it in. It'll bring you over to Video Ninja. And once you're on Video Ninja, I can go ahead and we can play that over. And everybody on both YouTube and TikTok will be able to hear our discussion. And I am overclocking my laptop right now, so hopefully that helps with it not popping off like it was last time. On YouTube, though, we will give this about another 15 minutes. If we don't get anybody coming up to debate in about 15 minutes, we'll do a restart. That won't affect YouTube, though. YouTube won't be affected by that. So we'll still be able to talk over on YouTube. Pool vibes. The Christians are always scared. They can't defend their Bible. Most of them haven't read their Bible. And once we go and we start discussing things in the Bible, they're not going to be able to reconcile it. They're going to get absolutely concussed. They're going to bust their hips. They'll never debate again. Once we get into talking about prophecies, they're not going to be able to actually talk about any prophecies. Like, they can't provide a single prophecy that Jesus actually fulfilled, and they're going to be scared to talk about it. And then once we start talking about the fact that I'm a mythicist, that I don't even believe that the historical Jesus existed, and they start throwing evidence at me and we start disproving the evidence of the physical Jesus, again, they've got nothing to backlash on. They've got nothing. They like to sit there and yip yap in comments, but they got nothing. They know they got nothing. Ligma, FPV, I appreciate that so much. And if you do like debates, if you do like the live, please go ahead and give me a subscription. It would mean so much to me. And also, if you're on TikTok, go ahead and hit that little coin by my name. That helps as well. Help me reach the gift goal. Leave comments. Any engagement helps the live. It gets it out on the FYP. And to go back to what Joycia and the Black Dragon said, why does the church also have insurance for when their priests commit these heinous acts? I watched the Ian versus Jason debate. Ian absolutely bodied Jason. Jason got his ankles absolutely wrecked. When you have to hold the stance that dinosaurs never existed and that it is sometimes okay to commit, to have familial relations, you have lost the debate. Your debate is gone. Your God is a monster. Your God is absolutely heinous. And that is another point, too, that I'm glad that Ian brought up, because God literally required familial relationships in order for the earth to be populated. He didn't have to, but he did. He required familial relationships. Thus, that's horrible. It's horrible. Absolutely disgusting. But Christians are going to say that, like he did, perfectly okay with it. They're not going to say that makes God a sick fuck. They won't say that. I'll say that. Absolutely makes God an absolute sick fuck. And while we're talking about the sick fuck that God is, let's go talk about some other scriptures concerning this. Things that God is also okay with is forcing a woman who was raped to stay with her rapist, right? God's perfectly chill with commanding that, and he's also perfectly chill with commanding grape and causing grape. So here we are going to go to the story of David and Bathsheba. With David and Bathsheba, as you all know, my chat has heard this before. With David and Bathsheba, we have where David, they're at war with the Ammonites, and make sure, there we go, yep. They go to war against the Ammonites, and while David is sitting on his palace, he sees Bathsheba bathing. Sees Bathsheba bathing, likes her, wants her, tells his servants to go get her. So his servants go and get her, and he sleeps with her, and he gets her pregnant. As a result of this, he sends her husband Uriah to the front lines, because keep in mind, she was married and he's married. Sends her husband to the front lines where he is unalived. And as a result of this, we get this long passage up here where Nathan, God through Nathan, the prophet Nathan, is saying, hey, I gave you all this and I would have given you more, but you have despised me. You have struck down Uriah the Hittite with the sword and have taken his wife to be your wife and have killed him with the sword of the Ammonites. Now, therefore, the sword shall never depart from your house, for you have despised me and have taken Uriah, or the wife of Uriah the Hittite, to be your wife. Thus says the Lord, I will raise up trouble against you from within your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in broad daylight. For you did it secretly, but I will do this thing before all of Israel. right? So God quite literally commands and orders the raping of David's 10 wives. And it gets fulfilled. We'll see over here in Samuel. This is in verse 12. In chapter 16, we have where David is on the run. He is running from his son Absalom. And once we get down here in the verse 20, we will read where they're trying to figure out how to get the people to like recognize Absalom. Then Absalom said to Ahithophel, "Give us your counsel. What shall we do?" Ahithophel said to Absalom, again, Absalom is David's son. It's his child. Said to Absalom, "Go in to your father's concubines, the ones he has left to look after the house, and all of Israel will hear that you have made yourself odious to your father, and the hands of all who are with you will be strengthened." So they pitched a tent for Absalom upon the roof. So again, what God said was going to happen is starting to happen. And Absalom went into his father's concubines in the sight of all of Israel. Now in those days, the counsel that Ahithophel gave was as if it was one consulted the oracle of God. So the counsel of Ahithophel was esteemed by both David and Absalom. So this God is absolutely disgusting, absolutely atrocious, absolutely disgusting, has absolutely no problem with the raping of women, commanding the raping of women, and not even for punished things that they did. They're being punished because David couldn't keep it in his pants and God didn't want to unalive David. As the law states, if you read the law states that when you commit adultery, if a man and a woman are caught committing adultery, they are to be stoned to death. But God never punishes David. He just punishes everybody around David. Still nobody wanting to come on up. My preschoolers I teach believe in dinosaurs. Yeah, Jason went as far as to say that not only does he not believe in dinosaurs, but he doesn't even believe in science because scientists are biased. So, Tie Guy, the Fly Guy, when does it say against the female's will? Well, we know that, when God says, "I will cause this to happen," it means he's taken away their free will. He's causing it to happen. It never says they did it willingly. Like, you're supposing it was willingly. But God said it was going to happen. And we do have verses within the Bible that does support God taking away people's free will and God just not caring about people's free will. As a matter of fact, these go into some other favorite verses of mine. So as soon as we get this loaded up, we'll go load up where so there's a few nations that God actually condemns, where he says, "Hey, these nations here, you are to go and obliterate them. If anything lives, if it breathes, you are to completely obliterate it, annihilate it. Nothing shall remain." And we'll go here. This is going to, let me get this highlighted real fast so I can remember when I go look at the verse. So this is going to be in Deuteronomy chapter 20. In Deuteronomy chapter 20, let me get this put up on screen real quick. Deuteronomy chapter 20, these are war verses. Now, up here in verse 10, all of this in blue is where God commands slavery, right? He's commanding that when you fight against a town, you're going to offer it terms of peace. If they surrender to you, then they'll serve you at forced labor. If they don't, then you are to unalive all the men, and then all the women, children, livestock, and everything else will be your property. But we're not focusing on that right now. We'll get on that here in just a little bit. Here in verse 16, But as for the towns of these people that the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, you must not let anything that breathes remain alive. Indeed, you shall annihilate them. We'll make this blue. Indeed, you shall annihilate them. The Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now notice in here, notice how the Amalekites aren't listed in here. That's important. The Amalekites are not listed in here. Important to know because you'll hear an apologetic that Christians like to use, but they're not mentioned in here. Important. So that, why are they doing this? So that they may not teach you to do all the abhorrent things that they do for their gods, and you thus sin against the Lord your God. It could be the case that God says, hey, these adults are gone. They're lost. They're gone. Go ahead and unalive them. I still think that's abhorrent. I don't support that. But God could have said that. But the children, the infants, bring them in, adopt them into your culture, and raise them the right way. God could have told them that, but no. God took away these children's free will to make their own choice, and again, punishing them for the sins of their fathers by ordering their annihilation, right? And the thing that is so upsetting when it comes to Christians is that when they read these, they don't realize that these are real people. In their worldview, these are people that actually existed, right? People that actually existed. David's wives were women that actually existed and were great. And all they can say is, oh, it's the Old Testament. And they get mad. They run from it. They run from it so hard. And they never, ever want to talk about it. Miguel, I actually have an extremely successful life. I don't know what you're talking about. I have a full-time job. I have an amazing family. I've got an amazing support. So I don't know why you think, and you think you know my life. You're just goofy. What are my views on abortion? I'm perfectly chill with abortion, and as a Christian, you should be chill with abortion as well. God, the number one unaliving, number one cause of unaliving what Christians view as a worldview of children, of infants, of would be the fact that God created the woman's biology, where the woman's biology spontaneously and most of the time rejects a pregnancy. God created a human body to intentionally abort fetuses, right? So when Christians go and they say, oh, I'm anti-abortion, don't be mad at us, be mad at God. God created the female body to spontaneously, randomly abort children. So that's your God that does that, Thai guy. Thai guy, what do you mean I don't care about free will? Hop in the box. Thai guy, unfortunately on YouTube, I can't send invites, but if you're going to join Thai guy, if you want to join, type this in, tinyurl.com/cyber/ or dash guest. Type this in, come on in, let's talk about it. Yes, it is the view that life does start at breath. That is what the Bible says. And that is the Jewish religion perspective, is that it does start. See, listen to this guy, John Ramsey over on YouTube. If those babies were punished, it was God's will. Yeah, see, God doesn't care about babies. Like, Christians act like we should care about babies, but they don't. If those babies were punished, it was God's will. God was perfectly okay with mass executing infants who couldn't make a choice, who made no choices, who did no wrong. We don't pretend to know what is far beyond us. Enigmatic. That's an issue. See, once you take that stance, when you take the stance that God's ways are higher, you just batted yourself. Because if your stance is that you don't understand God's ways, well, then how can you ground that you don't know whether or not God's lying to you? It could be the case that God is lying to you, that this book is full of lies, and God has you following a lie, and you wouldn't know any better because God's ways are higher. God doesn't have to explain himself to you. Any feelings you get of having the Spirit, any of those is literally just God lying to you, and you have no way to know about it because his ways are higher. You could quite literally just be a brain in a vat, and you wouldn't know because God's ways are higher, right? Get a better argument, get better rhetoric. Yeah, but then if God is lying, right, that'd be an evil act. God couldn't be God if he's lying to you. So that's a problem in your worldview. Oh, my goal was achieved. Miss Michelle, thank you so much. Let's see who helped me reach that. Miss Michelle Preston, thank you so much for helping me achieve that. I just looked down, saw you can reset your goal. Gonna get this reset here in a minute. Gonna make the gift go over here. Some ice cream. Oh yeah, but I did want to go read Numbers 5 though. Numbers 5, we actually have a potion. A potion that is commanded to be made that induces abortion. And this, you don't even have to have evidence that your wife committed adultery. This is just, do you suspect she's cheating on you? If you just suspect it, you make your wife drink this. Well, Dusseldorf, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Numbers don't exist. They exist because we use them. We made them up so we can explain things, but numbers themselves don't like intrinsically exist. God, DB, I believe God is real and that he could dunk on cyber. Well, it's not deconstructor, it's a deconstruction. But I want to hear his thoughts on it. Yeah, if there's anybody over there on YouTube, if you can dunk on me, hop in the box. Link's right up here. Click the link. Let's see if you can dunk on me. I don't think you will. I keep checking the link over here, and nobody's joining in from YouTube. It's literally just tinyurl.com/cyber-guest. Hit that. It'll pop you into a link, and you'll be able to have a chat with those over in the lands of the TikToks as well. They'll be able to hear you. And absolutely, God is powerless to defend himself. God has not been able to ever defend himself. But hey, over here on YouTube or TikTok, I'm going to go ahead and knock off a quick restart. When we come back, it's going to be like 30 seconds. When we come back, we need to get to 10K as fast as possible. So I will see you all here in just a minute. Right, doing a quick restart over Over on TikTok, we're going to get this live going again. You aren't a threat for God to defend against himself against. He doesn't allow. He has to exist. You can't even prove he exists, John. Oh, we achieved. I didn't realize we achieved that goal. Let me get that goal reset too. Welcome back in, Preston, Oprah Winfrey, Godson, welcome in, Rolly, welcome back in, Dan, Lowles, Ann Moreno, everybody, welcome in. I didn't realize that we knocked out that ice cream goal. I had, like, said it and then went to go, but it got knocked out, like, immediately. Is Jaren live? Gosh dang it. Jaren is live. Well, John, if you're taking existence on faith, I have some bridges I want to. I have a
Can you hear me?
multi-level. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Jaren is live, but he's not having anyone either. It looks like it's just one of those days.
Well, tell him to get his mustache face cowboy hatted self over on this panel.
Do you want me to drop and tell him that?
Nah. I'm not gonna go into a even though Jaren's a good friend of mine, I'm not gonna go into his live and be like, fool, baka.
Look, we're cyber. We're cyber. Get it? Anyway. Let's go ahead and tap the screen share of the live. Let's see if we can get host up to 10K. Again, you guys are doing fantastic. Bringing those numbers up as far as likes go. Also, heart me, Steam bracelets, and helping hosts hit their live goal also pushes into the algorithm as well. So be sure
All
to show
right.
support.
Yep, I will be bringing Joshy up from YouTube. He's in the box right now. I just gotta get some things changed over on the OBS side. We'll get Joshy on up. While we're doing this, Joshy, make sure you have some earbuds. Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
What are you doing?
All right, let me make sure they can. I'm doing good. Let me make sure they can hear you over on TikTok. TikTok, put ones in the chat if you can hear Joshy. Can you just say like a sentence? And YouTube, put ones in the chat if you can
what's
hear
good,
Joshy
TikTok?
as well. TikTok is good. All right, so Christianity is. What's your age? What's your age, first of all?
I'm 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 not supposed to tell my age on the internet, but I'm just gonna say I'm from 30.
Oh, yeah. I apologize, Joshy. That one I do apologize. You do have to be 18. And unfortunately on TikTok does check age. The algorithm does check for age, so I do apologize. Man, I got Joshy. You know what though? Let's give Joshy some W's though. Joshy does get some W's for at least coming up. Joshy, I do appreciate you coming up. Unfortunately, you do have to be 18. I don't talk to children. But let's give Joshy some W's for getting in the box, and let the child lead the way for the rest of you cowards who won't get in a box. Charlotte's Web has joined. No, it is. It's difficult to get in. I remember the first time I got in a box, and it's nervous. It is super nervous. Jesus would absolutely beat him in a 1v1 pickup basketball game. Possibly. I'm not much of a basketball player. I've never been really good at basketball. So yeah, Jesus for beating Cyber in basketball. Let's fill both chats up with Jesus for. Oh wait. Jesus doesn't exist. Even the natural Jesus never existed. So no, he couldn't beat me. It'd require him to exist. No, Joshy, I understand you're protecting your information, but we're not allowed to talk to people under the age of 18, and I just don't want to talk to children. Like, that's a hard line that I have. I don't talk to children on lives. I think it's creepy when people do. And I think talking to children on lives leads to issues down the road. There are some problematic people, and you yourself as a child probably should be wary of adults who do want to talk to you online. Like, don't talk to people online. It's goofy. Especially adults. It's weird. It's why churches have insurance for being PDF files. Man, John is absolutely crashing out on YouTube. I just wish he'd click this link right here. If you want to join, click this link. If you're on YouTube, click the link. I'll bring you up, and we can definitely have this chat. But you've got to type the link in. It'll bring you over. We'll be able to talk over. Oh, we got somebody. Oh, they bopped out. We had somebody in. Somebody clicked the link or typed it in, and then they're like, nope, we're out. I'm out. Yes, and that woman of the millennium, that does bring up another good point. Doug the Rock God would absolutely destroy Yahweh in a game of pickup basketball. Absolutely destroy Yahweh. Yahweh would go into that go into that game not knowing what to do. He wouldn't have the proper shoes on. He'd probably start crying foul, trying to throw out some curses. Probably go unalive some children. Probably committed genocide to be committed. Just due to losing to Doug. I would. We can talk about whether or not Jesus himself was recorded outside of history, or was it like a man named Jesus, but or was it like a mythology of a person named Jesus and they wrote about him? Because if you're gonna say that the name itself was recorded and the person was recorded, well, Josephus also wrote about Hercules. So did Hercules exist? Because there are cases in which mythological creatures are written as if they actually existed. So if you believe that Jesus existed because of historical records, you're going to also have to bite that bullet and accept that Hercules existed because historians wrote about Hercules. I am still absolutely floored though, that Alex Gordon Flowers actually showed up in the live though, in the chat over on YouTube. That's wild. Well, so to be clear, you are Victoria. Heracles, the Greek name, pre-exists the Romans.
Yep.
Well, as a as a theist, doesn't mean that there's a higher power to convict you either. You just or you just believe there is, but it's just brain chemicals releasing in your brain. We know this. Like we know like definitively what chemicals are released. Like when you go to church and you're thinking you're feeling the spirit, we know exactly what chemicals are being released in your brain to make you have that euphoric feeling that you're feeling. Like we know what these are. We know these chemicals. All right. Looks like we do have somebody coming on. Joshy, I can't bring you up. Joshy, I know you're trying to come up, and I appreciate you. I appreciate you coming in. Yes, apparently I'm the not so problematic Chris Pratt. Apparently that's who I am. That came from PAX Under Construction. You know, that's not the first time I've been told I look like Chris Pratt, though. I've had a few people tell me that I need to do a Star-Lord cosplay. Well, no. Hold up, Ethan, over on YouTube. When it talks about some of these other people, the types of evidence that we look at, right? So evidence is important, and the evidence that we look at is first we look at evidence of their own evidence. Do we see that they wrote letters? Do they have their own writings? Did people write to them? So that's what we look at first. And so like with George Washington, Julius Caesar, and other historical figures, we have their own writings, their writings that they wrote. We don't have that for Jesus. We don't have any writings about Jesus. Then second, we look at then we'll look at the writings of people that were close to them. And the closer in time that these people are writing about the person, the more seriously it's taken. The issue is when it comes to Jesus, we don't actually know who wrote about him. The people that wrote about him wrote anonymously, and in fact, it wasn't until Irenaeus in like 2 or 380 when the Gospels got their names, and they were anonymous. Nowhere in the Gospels does it say, I, Matthew, am writing this. I, Luke, am writing this. These are never mentioned. Never once. And if you want to follow a book, some of you may have mentioned us talking about Christ Before Jesus. He writes a book. This is a book he wrote. He and his co-author wrote a book, Christ Before Jesus. They use stylometric analysis. It's a peer-reviewed data science that is used to check for authorship. It's used in courts. In fact, most of you, I'm going to throw a name out here. Most of you are not going to be familiar with the name of Robert Galbraith. Most of you don't know who that name is. But Robert Galbraith is a pen name for another author who wrote a book series that is still extremely popular today. And this author wanted to keep their name, their actual name, associated with that franchise. So all their other books, they write under a pen name, Robert Galbraith. This author, turns out, is J.K. Rowling. J.K. Rowling wanted J.K. Rowling to stay with Harry Potter and the Wizarding World. But people ran stylometric analysis on this, found out that it was J.K. Rowling, and despite both her and her publisher trying to hide it, turned out that they finally had to admit it. So when we take a look at stylometry, turns out that the Gospels were written in the mid-2nd century. They're not 1st century documents. They're mid-2nd century. And this is supported by the fact that the earliest document is P52, the earliest manuscript, P52, it's of John, and the Riesland Library, where it is housed at, is now dating it to 200. We have no manuscripts earlier than that. But also when we take a look at like Luke in chapter 1 mentions that he is writing to a Theophilus. Now, we don't know who Theophilus is. Like, when you read Luke is supposedly written between 60 to 80. But so it can't be the Theophilus, the high priest, because he had retired by then. So it can't be him. And the only other Theophilus that we have that we know of in the time frame turns out is Theophilus of Antioch in the mid-2nd century. So Luke lines up with what the stylometric analysis says. It supports it. Supports stylometric analysis. When we go and we read Matthew does a horrible job understanding Jewish culture. Matthew doesn't understand any Jewish culture. He gets it wrong all the time. And it's clear that Matthew was reading from the Septuagint and was not studying under the Levitical priests at the temple, which he would have been doing had he been a Jew. So the Gospels fall apart. Christ didn't exist. Like, Christians, just cope with it. It's okay. Just deal with it. He never existed. You don't have any evidence, no proof of it. Man, still nobody. You know what? We're gonna change this background up. We're gonna go change up this background. Let me see if I can find my more offensive one. And let's move the link. Let's move this link up here. Here we go. Better topic. This one'll bring them in. Where's Ghost of Christian Past with her fish when you need her? Absolutely, Charlie's. The New Testament is like completely anti-Tanakh. And they don't even realize it. In fact, I mentioned Tanakh, and I'm going to have like half the Christians over there being like, see, there he goes talking about that Tanakh. That's that other book they use that we consider blasphemous because they don't know what the Tanakh is. They'll confuse it with Talmud. Man, we're about to get Spanky to hold this live. I think Spanky will out debate. Jesus couldn't read Hebrew. Jesus probably couldn't read Aramaic. Well, obviously, Logan, Jesus couldn't read. He never existed. Do I breathe oxygen or air? Well, I breathe in air. I breathe in air. My lungs, my blood cells exchange the oxygen out of the air and replace it with carbon dioxide, and I exhale the carbon dioxide. But yes, I breathe in air, not oxygen. Oxygen is in the air, though. Good question, though. Good question. Man, John Ramsey over on YouTube, that's the hill he wants to die in. That's the hill he wants to die on. Faith, my dude, just have faith. Faith. Right, Charlie's. The especially when they don't even know how to read the Talmud. They don't even know how to read it, and then they try to quote it. And they're like, but right here, the Talmud says, and it's like, yeah, tell me what that says. Go read it again. Who can you tell me who said that? Like, this isn't just like one big page of passage from one person. Who said that? And they can't tell you. They don't know. They get lost in the sauce. Well, enigmatic, the link, literally right here. It's up here. Click it. Click the link. Let's talk about it. I would love to have you up here. It's tinyurl.com/cyber-guest. Hop in. Let's talk about it. I would love to absolutely chat with you about it. But with that said, we'll probably do one more restart on YouTube. Still not getting anybody yet. We'll do one more restart. But before we do that restart, I am going to knock out this song real quick. It's my new theme song. This is another version of it. And I am going to go use the restroom real fast.
Plug in, log on, let's break it down. Truth ain't scared to be found. Dogma shakes when questions rise. No more fear, no more lies. Cyber deconstruction, let's get real. Faith when challenge starts to peel. If it's built on solid ground, why is it scared to stick around? Sacred text, twisted views. Time to separate lies from truth. Not here to burn, but here to see what survives when the mind breaks free. Deconstruct, analyze, open hearts, open eyes.
All right, with that, we're gonna get this restart kicked off. Yeah. So real quick, that song is AI. I wrote the lyrics. The AI generated it. I did do some singing, so that's my voice AI-ish, so on and so forth. But it is AI. But we are going to go ahead and do a restart, and I'll see YouTube right back here, and then we'll probably go for another half hour if we don't get anybody else in. Oh yeah, AI, come on over. We can talk about it. I got a syllogism I'd like to run on you, but I need you to hop on over. Click the link once we get this back up, but the link will be up here. It's tinyurl.com/cyber-guest. Click that link and we can definitely talk. Atheists are not just as much believers. We're not. We look at evidence. We look at evidence and we go with what the evidence says, and we test empirical data. But the Bible does, and we're able to update our models. So, like, we had Newtonian physics, and it works fine on Earth, but once you get out into space, Newtonian physics kind of falls apart. So then they designed relativity. So relativity works fantastic out in space. Welcome back. Welcome back. Get Hanji back up here. How you doing, Hanji?
I'm good looking at books.
Man, this AI over on YouTube, I wish he'd come on over and talk. You know what? YouTube chat, let's give some W's for John Ramsey. So AI is trying to make the claim that atheists, even though we don't believe in a God, we believe just as hard. And John Ramsey said probably the most sensible thing he has said the entire time in chat. AI, not believing in any gods doesn't mean that you don't actively believe that there isn't one. It's a neutral position, not a belief. 100%, 100%. John, give yourself a pat on the back. Take yourself out later on tonight for a milkshake. You deserve it.
This man said, take yourself out later. That's funny.
Oh, all right. We got AI on YouTube. So AI, just stand one moment. We'll get you brought on over. I got to make some things over on OBS, and then we'll get you brought on over. It's just the way Video Ninja works. Then we'll come over to the control room here. We'll enable this. Boop. All right, AI, can you hear me? AI, I think you're muted. Can you hear me? Because I cannot hear you. That's X. Let's make sure we got this. Yeah, I got you brought over, AI. You need to unmute yourself. Okay, fair enough, fair enough. So yeah, I'll hang it up. Just when you come back, hop back up. What do you mean all the Christians are at church? Who the fuck goes to church at 12 o'clock on a Saturday? Christians, if you're going to church at 12 o'clock on a Saturday, like, that's abuse. Like growing up, Saturday morning cartoons ended maybe an hour ago. I was still like in my pajamas, like maybe eating like my third or fourth bowl of cereal. I mean, if you're wait, yeah. And speaking of that, I don't know if Charlie's came back in, but Charlie's, what are you doing on the internet? It's Saturday, it's Shabbat. Why are you on the internet? Well, Chris Ronnie, that is presupposing that the Bible is true, and you haven't provided an argument for one. So, how about this? Click the link, it's right up here, and let's have a chat about it. I would love to hear your argument for it. And also, if you are over here on YouTube, hop on over, or on TikTok, hop on over to YouTube. Give me a follow over there. Yes, Logan Fisher, absolutely. Whenever they say every knee will bend. So, Charlie's, it's Shabbat. You're on the internet. That's electricity, my dude. Charlie's like, oh, caught. That is true. Atheism is a religion like off is a TV channel. Like absolutely 100%. But I'm just waiting for a Christian to come on up. Like the link's up there. The other night I had a bunch of Christians being like, "Talk to us. Give us a way to talk." And some of them came over to TikTok, which I was extremely appreciative of. Oh, there we go. All right, let me get you back in. I'm going to need to run this process real quick again. We'll get you back on over. Hit OK. That's still
Saber, we do
open.
have someone here on TikTok, just letting you know.
Okay, leave them up in the guest box real quick. AI is over here on Video Ninja.
Noted.
And AI, can you hear me? All right, and yep, I can hear you. And as always, one's in the TikTok chat if you can hear AI, and one on YouTube if you can hear AI. Go ahead and sing the Hokey Pokey. Just kidding. Just sing. Say like a couple sentences. That works. All right. Looks like we are good. And how old are you? All right. Yeah, so I believe that God is a sick monster. Why isn't God a sick monster? God is just a mind. Is just a mind that's like the creator. And that would be what God is to me. But you're a Christian, correct? Yeah, God's just a formless mind. Yeah, I'm calling the mind a monster. No, no.
Mind.
That's just my definition of like. Well, let me rephrase. I'll give that a better one. It's a supernatural mind.
And with
Oh, I don't believe one exists. That's just what I would consider to be a god. I don't believe it exists, so it exists nowhere. Oh yeah, because the god that you believe in is portrayed in the book is a monster, as the book portrays it. The Bible. Are you not a Christian? Oh. Yeah, so if you're a Christian, let's just debate that. Oh, I'll debate Muslims. Yeah, I would say that in most mythologies, God do pretty horrible things. But when it comes to the Abrahamic gods, the problem that you run into, unless you disagree, but the Abrahamic gods in the Bible state that God maintains the omni properties, and so that makes this God and his the atrocities that he commits within the Bible to be unforgivable.
Some people on YouTube are saying they cannot hear.
okay.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna. Maybe I need to clock the computer a bit more, or let me check my OBS settings here. Yeah, it's one of those things that like I have to be careful because I don't want to blow out like the ears of people on YouTube. Go ahead and talk.
Hello. Can you hear me? Hello. Hello.
Is that better? Because your thing over on my audio mixer is popping up. Let's try this too. Well, no, because if TikTok can hear you, it's going out. All right, let's keep doing this. It looks like they can hear you. I'm seeing your thing popping up on the voice thing. But what's your definition of a god?
Well, it's whatever's mentioned in the Bible.
Okay, so you believe your god has the omni
he's
properties?
basically. Well, I believe he has all of them except for the omni property in the spiritual world, where he basically combats evil.
Wait, so he
Can you hear me?
doesn't have so he doesn't have the omni properties in the spirit world?
Yes, indeed.
And why wouldn't he have them in the spirit world?
But
Oh, but didn't God create the spirit world? So
that's where I find hell
so
and
God
heaven.
did not create the heavens as told in the Bible?
Yeah, he created heaven because he's the force for good. Heaven's a place where we people can go if we choose to be a force for good as well.
Yeah, but God created it, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if God created heaven, where is this spirit world then that you're talking about? Where is it located at?
You know what dimensions are, right? So we have
Yeah.
space, time, Spirit world is another dimension for sure because we can't see heaven anywhere on 3D space or time, so it's definitely a different dimension.
Real quick, yes, YouTube, this is AI, and are you you're not Mormon, are you?
No,
Okay, because this is some like Mormon theology with like am I going to be going outside trying to find where the star Kolob is at and say, oh, there's where God lives? Yeah. So but you don't believe that God created the spirit world?
no.
Oh yeah, yeah. So how did the spirit world get here?
We have no idea really. But that's all like basically all the other dimensions you see were basically created from that spirit world. If you want to think about it, it's like it's the main reality.
Oh, so if it's main reality, so yeah, so I would just argue that whatever created this universe is the same thing that created like the spirit world. The universe has just always been here. Thus, through a naturalistic approach, I don't need a god. Thus, God doesn't exist.
The universe has only been here for a few billion years, not always.
Well, that's due to a misunderstanding of how the Big Bang Theory works, and that's just the Big Bang Theory that you're utilizing is the model hasn't been used for at least 50 years. So the current Big Bang Theory model is that the universe was super small, condensed, and hot. We don't know how big it was. We know it was probably right around or smaller than the size of a human, of your average human body. And
Yeah.
all the Big Bang says is that there was just a rapid expansion, and the Big Bang is still happening today. We can notice this through checking what's called the redshift. I don't know if you know what redshift is, but we're able to look at
Oh yeah,
redshift.
yeah. Universe is
Yeah,
expanding, yeah, faster than light. Yes, I know that.
correct. So when we talk about like how old the universe is, we're only talking about like this iteration of the universe. But again, you gotta remember before the Big Bang, the universe still existed. It was just super small and hot.
Yes, yeah, but we have to think of like, was that lasting for how long? Like, how long was that in existence? Where did it come from? We
Oh,
don't
it's
know
just
the
always
answers to that
been.
yet, right?
Yeah, we have an idea.
Always
It's
been
probably
not that's a claim. That's a
well we
huge
have
claim saying that it was
well
burning hot
no
for infinite time.
well
That's
we
a
know
huge
that
claim.
because that's just like thermodynamics. But another reason why we know this because that explains how the universe formed. But have you heard of the Deci study? Are you familiar with the Deci study?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, so it stands for Dark Energy Spectroscope Instrument. And real quick, Thinker, how are you doing today? Chat, if you're not following Thinker, I know most of you are. Give Thinker a follow if you're not already. But so the DESI study stands for Dark Energy Spectroscope Instrument. It is a big telescope that for the last about 5 to 6 years has been doing constant 3D modeling and mapping of the known universe, and it has been mapping out the redshift. And what it has noticed is that the redshift seems to be decelerating, right? So it seems to be slowing down, which means that is due to gravity, right? Because again, we have the laws of physics. It can't stop unless there's something acting on opposite of it. So if it's starting to slow down, that means it could stop. And if it does stop, that means that gravity could start having it pull in and causing a crunch. So we should be there's been two papers that have come out on it so far from the DESI study.
Yeah.
We're expecting a third one to come out here within the next few weeks. And if it shows that the dark energy is starting to slow down, decelerate, then the new Big Bang model will turn into a cyclic model, of which it goes through a series of big bangs, big crunches, and big bounces. And the universe has just always been
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually familiar with that. But right now, at least right now, we're more leaning towards that it's going to continue expanding infinitely. That's just a recent study. It doesn't have as much evidence as the other one.
Well, yeah. Well, the DESI study is new, but like I said, so far the papers that have come out from the study are suggesting that it's starting to slow down, right? And thus, I have evidence, I have justification to believe that it's going to go through a series of big bang, big crunches, and big bounces. But let's say that's not the case. you still can't justify that because again, the Big Bang model currently, as it stands, does not state that the universe came from nothing, right? It actually makes no claim of where the universe came from, right? It just states that the universe was super small, hot, and condensed, and then it started to expand. That's all it says.
All right, and
Yeah.
therefore, what?
Yeah, but you believe though that God did. Do you believe that God created our universe though?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and do you believe that God in this universe, as far as our realm, is you did say he maintained the omni properties, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So why did God create? Let me ask another clarifying question. Do you believe that God created a world that was perfect for humans in the garden?
I wouldn't say perfect.
So in the garden, when God says it was perfect, it wasn't perfect.
Well, really, if you think about it, that perfect there was there before evil decided to come.
Well, yeah, but my question then is like, if God created the world perfect, why did God create a sun that gives us cancer?
Okay, I know you've been preparing that for a while,
Mm-hmm.
but w- um, so first of all, right, that's just how it is. It's
Yeah,
I
but why
didn't
did
say it's
God create a
perfect.
sun that gives
That's
us
where
perfect?
evil comes into play.
Well, you said it was
Yes, I
created
mean,
perfect until the fall. So again, I'm not going to talk about like the purpose of evil against humans, particular. I'm just going to talk about the like naturalistic evil, right? Why did God create an earth that you said was perfect until evil came in? Why did God create a sun that gives us cancer?
okay. I would like you to tell me what do you define as perfect?
There could be nothing better. It is the ultimate. Uh, there's nothing that could be improved upon. It is like maximally at its maximal level of goodness.
Right, and have you seen anything perfect in your lifetime? I would argue I haven't.
No, but has God seen things that are perfect?
Well,
And God
life
said it was
itself.
perfect. Well, no, we're not talking about our
Okay.
perspective. We're talking about when God says something is perfect. God said it was perfect.
Yeah.
And so if God is saying
Yes. Yes.
something is perfect, right,
Yes.
then we're going to institute, right, because you didn't contend my definition. So it'd be what he views as it cannot get any better. It is as good as it gets. There's nothing to improve
Yes.
upon.
Yes. And there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing to improve upon on life.
Yeah, so why
And
did God
like
create a sun that
these
gives us
other things.
cancer? Yeah, why did God create a sun that gives us cancer?
Well, God created the sun. He created us.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yep.
sun giving us cancer is it's just a part of this world. It's by
Mm-hmm.
chance.
But couldn't
Yeah,
God have
and
created a world in which we didn't get cancer, in which the sun didn't give us cancer, without literally changing nothing else about reality?
if he did do that, we wouldn't know that the sun could give us cancer, and we wouldn't be able to solve that problem by ourselves.
Wait, why
So
would
what
we
I'm
need to
essentially
solve?
trying
Well,
to say is
hold.
that the perfection doesn't come in all the things we see and
Yeah, but
experience. The
cancer, we
perfection
wouldn't
comes
need
in the
to.
form
We
of life
wouldn't.
itself.
We wouldn't need to fix cancer because it wouldn't exist. Skin cancer wouldn't exist because the sun wouldn't give us cancer, so we wouldn't have an issue with it, right?
Okay, but that doesn't prove that it's imperfect.
It does. It proves that God created something that was imperfect because the sun does, in fact, give us cancer. And in fact, we can even point that it actually has nothing to do with the fall of Adam. God
So
created the
is
sun from
your
the beginning to give us cancer.
so what I'm understanding is that God created a sun that makes us
Mm-hmm.
die. Therefore, God is not perfect. I mean, we're His
Correct.
creation is not perfect.
Correct. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Absolutely.
So then what about animals that, in the past, whatever we used to fight with, like
Yeah, animal
viruses,
suffering
all that
is
other
yeah,
stuff,
animal suffering
natural
is also proof that God doesn't
disaster.
exist. Why would an all just
Yeah,
God make animals in such a way that they do horrific things? Why would he create animals? There's a type of shrew that when it bites its prey, it crushes its spinal cord, and it has a certain amount of pressure so that when it eats its prey, it destroys the spinal cord, paralyzing the animal, and then it stows it away and it leaves and it comes back later while this animal is suffering in its burrow without any way to get food, and then the shrew comes back later and it slowly eats it to death. Right, these are all horrific things that God created. This is not a perfect world. God created a world that made well, I think there I'd have to go look up, but there's at least like 15,000. There's more, but I'm comfortable saying 15,000 like mass extinctions that we're aware of before humans even existed, and God created this world.
yes, but that's okay. That's a great
Cybersecond.
argument, but I feel like it comes from a very emotional perspective that, and I'm not a
Thank
horrorist
you,
or anything
Tinker, for
either, that
helping us
I
reach
think
that
pain
goal.
should be
Thank you,
inflicted on
everyone,
animals or
for
Hold on
people.
real
gifting
quick.
Strength
Hold
But
on real
Alive.
quick. Thinker, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Go ahead, Preston. Or sorry, not Preston. I was reading Preston. Go ahead, AI.
perfection comes in just in life itself and all the other things we see, like the creation of everything. Now, you are labeling this suffering as imperfection. You're
Mm-hmm.
labeling death as imperfection. You're
Yes.
labeling all these things as imperfection because they feel imperfect to you. However, they are part of his perfection. That's what I have to say. I disagree with,
Well, hold
and
hold on.
I'm not being
Was there
horrorist
death?
or anything, or I'm not being like anything like that.
No, I don't think you're being bad faith or anything. But was there death in the garden?
Yes.
And what evidence do you have that there was death in the garden?
Well, I don't understand what you mean. Actually,
Yeah,
sorry.
I asked you, was there death in the garden? Right? Because keep in mind, Adam and Eve were told that they could eat of anything they wanted, but if they partook of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that would on that day they would die. So it insinuates that there was no death, right? Most theologians hold the stance that there was no death in the garden before partaking of the fruit.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So it seems to be that if things were perfect, that death wasn't a part of it, right? But all of a sudden, when Adam and Eve partook of the fruit, suddenly death becomes a thing, right? But we're punishing in animals that had nothing to do with it, that had no choice. So the issue that you're going to run into here is that one, that God created a world that causes cancer, that causes animal suffering. God created a world in which animals are going to be punished for something that they have no control over. So I don't think that is just. I don't think that's perfect. I think that's horrible. I think that all makes God a monster.
All right, and if we think about it, if Adam and Eve never could die
Okay.
and they reproduced infinitely and they had infinite kids and then those kids inhabited the entire planet, do you not think there would be suffering from for them regardless? So death is not suffering in itself.
Oh, do
It's
we have any
it's
evidence
the
that
end to
Adam and Eve?
suffering and the start of paradise.
Oh, we don't have any evidence that Adam and Eve were even attempting to reproduce in the garden. We get this, and that's problematic too, because the very first commandment God gave Adam and Eve was to procreate. We see that in Genesis chapter 1, but we have no evidence that Adam and Eve were seeking to procreate. And the reasoning for this is, or they didn't know how to, so they weren't. And the reason we get this is once they realize their nakedness, once they realize it, they're ashamed. Right now, keep in mind, these are the only two people on the face of the planet. They have absolutely no reason to be ashamed of each other, right? Adam and Eve understands that God made
No,
them
they,
for
they
each
didn't
other.
hide themselves from each other. They hid themselves from God.
No, but they were embarrassed at their nakedness, right? They're embarrassed at their nakedness,
Yes,
right?
that
But
that
there's
God
no
was seeing their
reason for
nakedness.
them.
Yes.
But there's no reason for them to be embarrassed at their nakedness. Yeah, but what I'm saying is that, and I'm going to go double check something. Um, let me see here. So it reads, we'll just go read this real fast. So when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was a delight to the eye, that the tree was to be desired to make the one wise, she took the fruit and ate it, also gave some to her husband. Then both their eyes were open, and they knew they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made loincloths for themselves. They heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden in the evening breeze, and the man and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God among the trees of the garden. But the Lord had called the man, saying, "Where are you?" He said, "Here I am." Right? But it mentions though that they were still afraid, and that because of their nakedness they decided to clothe themselves. Why would they find this necessary to do, right?
Given free will, they chose to have this knowledge of evil. So now evil has some sort of access to us, and they're conscious of good and evil now.
Yep. But the reasoning why they made the clothing though is because they were embarrassed. And then once they heard God, because of their embarrassment, they decided to hide because they recognized that's why they made their clothing is because they were
Yeah.
embarrassed. But the next question is, how can you have free will and be punished for doing something that is deemed as evil or bad when you don't know what evil is?
Um. So you said punished, right? I
Yeah, they were
I,
punished.
I
They were kicked out
disagree
of the
with that,
garden,
right?
right? They were kicked out of the garden, right? What was woman told
I
about
wouldn't say that's. I
childbearing? What
wouldn't
was
say that's
what was
punished.
what
I
was
would
Eve
say
told
that.
about childbearing?
What you say?
Yeah, so the reason why we would
What did
say
you
this
say?
is a punishment is because they were kicked out of the garden, and it says, because you have done this, because you have done this, cursed are you among all animals and among all wild creatures. Upon your that's the sorry, that's the serpent. That's the serpent. To the woman, he said, I will make your pangs in childbirth exceedingly great. In your pain you shall bring forth children, yet your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you, and the man, because you have listened to the voice of your wife. So the man's not even being punished for eating of the fruit. He's being punished because he listened to a woman. God's punishing Adam for listening to the woman. Because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree about which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In toil you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth to you. You shall eat in the plants of the field. By the sweat of your faith you shall eat the bread until you return to the ground, for out of it you are taken, and you are dust. And then we get where they're named Adam and Eve. So they didn't even have names before this. Um, and then they get kicked out of the garden, right? And well, the question is, why did God punish them when they didn't know what evil was?
Okay, so they had the free will, right? They had a chance. Okay, first let's go to punishment. The idea of
Okay.
punishment. Is it punishment if you make the mistake yourself and then get punished for it? And
Yes,
that
if
is completely
you
different than being punished for something that you didn't choose to do yourself,
yes, it is
right?
punishment if you don't even have an understanding that what you're doing is wrong. And so, in fact, that is something that our court systems take into account is they take a look at before they punish you, like, did you actually know it was wrong? Like, a lot of time, one of the things that's often misthrown out in court is the term insanity, right? When somebody pleads insanity, all it's saying is that they didn't know or understand the law, right? And now there are mental conditions that may add to that as well, but at its base root, insanity just means I did not understand the law. And if you are found to be able to actually prove that you didn't understand the law, then you're not punished, right? Because you didn't know the law, you didn't know you broke anything, right? So our justice system allows for this, right? So you can't so God is not just when he's punishing somebody when they did not know that what they were doing was bad.
Okay. We can talk about good versus evil, which is two forces, but within the force for good itself, there's a clear distinction between good versus wrong. So when you eat the fruit, what you're doing is you're bringing that force of evil, but still when you're in good, when you're in the force of good, you can still have that conscious of understanding what's good and wrong. Except when you eat the fruit after that, evil comes into your conscious as well. That's the main difference.
Yeah, but that's not the question I asked. The question is, why is God punishing them for something that they didn't know was bad? They didn't know
Yes,
that
they did
listening
know
to
it's bad.
God was
They
good
did know
or
it's bad.
bad. They didn't know. How did they know?
They did know it's bad
How did they know it was
because
bad?
God created them to understand what's good and bad. You can't have good. You can't have good without understanding what's bad.
Wait. That doesn't make sense. So did they have knowledge of good and evil? Did they know what was good and bad before? Did they know that?
Yes, they know.
What
They
was the
knew
purpose?
what it
Then what was
was.
the
Yes,
purpose? Then what was the? Well, hold on. How did they know that if they haven't partaken of the tree yet? That's the whole purpose for the tree, is to give them that knowledge. The tree gave them that knowledge.
they know. The tree is to give them the knowledge of the force for evil. Good and bad are separate concepts that you can understand. They were created in the image of God. You think God doesn't, so you're arguing that God is evil is essentially what you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
because God
Yep.
understands good and evil as separate concepts, but that doesn't mean he lets the force for evil control him. In the same way he created Adam and Eve in his image, so they know the force, they know what good and evil are, but they don't let the force for evil control them. But once they eat that fruit, they let that knowledge of that evil, let it control them.
Can
That
you can
that's
you
the main
give can you
difference.
tell me what
Because
the name of the tree was? Can you give me the name of the tree?
no, I don't remember.
Yeah, the name of the tree was a tree of knowledge of good and evil. It wasn't named the tree of force of good and evil. It was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And in fact, God says, so they get those punishments, right? We read the punishments, and then God says, after they're punished, then God says, then the Lord said, see, the humans have become like one of us. So now he's saying they're like us, knowing good and evil. Now they might reach their hands out and take also from the tree of life, eat and live forever. So every instance of this, God is talking about them not having the knowledge of good and evil. There's no force behind it.
All right, and um, okay, let me think about this one second.
Which also means that they didn't know that the talking serpent wasn't good to listen to either. And why did God give Eve parcel tongue? That's what I want to know too. Biggest proof that Harry Potter's real, Eve had parcel tongue.
All right. So I guess what I'd mainly respond to saying is that can you give me like more evidence that this was the tree for to give them knowledge of evil instead of just letting evil have some control over them? Because
Oh yeah. Yeah, we'll go read it. Let me look it up real quick. Um, let me see where it is. sure we're, because Genesis chapter 2 is like kind of discombobulated in how it's. There we go. So Genesis chapter 2 verse 15, the Lord God took the man and put him in the garden of Eden to till and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, you may freely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Now keep in mind, that's the name of it. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat. For in the day that you eat of it, you shall die. And then we get where he's trying to create Eve. And then when we go to Genesis 3, it talks about, now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animal that the Lord hath made. So it's just an animal. It's not even saying it's like Lucifer. It's just a serpent. He said to the woman, did God say to you, you shall not eat of any tree in the garden? The woman said to the serpent, we may eat of the fruits of the garden. But God said, you shall not eat of the fruits of the tree that is in the middle of the garden, nor shall you touch it, or you shall die. Now, Eve is adding, nor shall you touch it. That's not what God told Adam. He just told Adam not eat of it. Eve is adding, don't touch it, or you shall die. But the serpent said to the woman, you will not die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good from evil. So there's no force here. Everything is a reference to knowing good from evil. And so then she ate of it, and then it says their eyes were both opened, and they knew that they were naked. They knew that being naked was evil, right? This is where the embarrassment comes in. They're doing something evil. But then the Lord mentions that they ate of it. And then it mentions, though, again, that God says, see, the humans have become like us. And this is one of the biggest frustrations when people say that we were made in God's image, right? Because in this instance, God is making there's a clear distinction between humans and the image of God. He intentionally put a distinction in there. And the distinction was that humans did not have the knowledge of good and evil, but God did. That is a distinction. So see, the humans have become like one of us, knowing good and evil, and now they might reach their hands out and take also from the tree of life and eat forever. So that would be the evidence of it just being a knowledge tree and not a force tree.
Okay, and I have a response as well. So I'd say that the knowledge, that the tree of whatever, the tree of knowledge, that would give them the knowledge of good and evil was actually the force, and that their internal sense of good and evil before that, because they definitely had one if they were to do any actions. I mean, you have to have an internal sense of good versus evil to have.
You
to
have to
really
prove
do
they
anything.
had.
So
Well,
I would say
what's
their
your
internal
what's your argument for
sense
that?
before that.
Give me your argument that we have an internal sense of good and evil, but you have to give the argument that predates the garden. That would do them, right? So you can't utilize us in this argument because we are living post knowledge. What's your argument that humans have an innate sense of good and evil before partaking of the fruit? What's your argument? Go ahead.
I didn't say I don't know if they mean the same thing, but I said internal.
Yeah, give me your argument for
So it's
the
like
internal.
within your own mind, it's not linked to the outside.
Yeah, give me your evidence of that.
Just like,
I see an argument.
how can I give you? I mean, do you want me to give you evidence for it us right now, or
Yeah, you
I
made a
can't give you
claim.
evidence for people?
Yeah, you made a claim. I just need the argument
Okay,
for
yeah,
it.
sure.
If you make an argument that goes through, then yeah, I'd accept it. But give me a good argument.
Okay, okay, yeah. Actually, I have one. I have one. So we're the same people as Adam and Eve, and even before
No, we're
they
not.
were
We're not. We have
before the tree of
become.
knowledge.
We're not. We have
When they ate
become
that
like.
fruit,
Hold
they
on.
let
Hold on.
that force come through.
We are
Yeah.
not like Adam and Eve.
So I'm giving you
hold
evidence
on.
for
Stop.
that.
I reject that premise. We have become like God. So we're not like Adam and Eve in the garden. We have become like God, knowing good and evil. So I just reject that premise.
No,
But good
I
try.
disagree with that.
Do we not
No,
know good and evil?
um,
Do we not have? Because I would say that innate, that inherent, that internal sense of good and evil is the result of eating of the fruit, and that's what the scriptures suggest.
Okay, then my question would be, what did they choose to do before that? On what basis would they choose to do anything?
I think what it was is
So that
when
means they
we
didn't
are.
have free will.
Oh yeah, so what I'm going to say
So
is
that's the full
that
contradiction.
what we are led to believe by reading the text alone, we are led to believe that God and Adam and Eve talked, right? They talked with each other. Now, it mentions that the serpent was more cunning, right? Meaning that it could talk, right? It's assuming that because it could talk, it was more cunning. And so now you have an entity here who doesn't know good and evil, doesn't know the difference between good and evil, has no idea because they don't have that knowledge yet. And they have one deity telling them, or one entity, not deity, one entity saying, don't eat of that or you will die. And then they have another entity saying, what? No, you can eat that. They just don't want you to eat that because you'll know good from evil, right? And so they're concussed. They don't know what to do. So Eve looks, sees a tree, and goes, hey, that looks delicious. It states she saw that it was delightsome, and so she ate it. And it turns out that the serpent was telling the truth. She gained the very knowledge that, because God confirms it, she gained the very knowledge that that God said they would receive. So the serpent didn't lie to her. The serpent told the truth. And it
Yeah.
turns out
Okay.
God
Okay.
lied.
Sorry. I got a better response for this now.
Okay.
It's God's understanding of good versus evil has encompasses the whole thing, right? If you just think about a diagram, you have God on one side, you have evil on the other.
Yep.
God understands everything, right? So he understands the difference between good and evil. He understands them as forces. When they ate the
What's your evidence that they're
fruit
forces?
from the
You
tree
keep
of knowledge.
insinuating these forces. What's your evidence that evil's a force?
Wait, can I just finish my statement?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So when they ate the tree of the fruit of knowledge, that's when they began to understand those forces itself, and that's when they let that evil force control them. But before that, the knowledge they had was within free will alone. So they still had the choice, but they just didn't know that force was distinct. Of force of good was distinct from the force of evil.
So let's say I grant this just for this short statement. So if they didn't know, because you just stated they didn't know, why are they still being punished then?
I wouldn't say it's punishment.
It
I would say
is.
it's like if you
God says he's cursing
if
them.
you
They're cursed.
punishment implies that punishment yeah punishment implies that there's something wrong happening, right? I mean, you're doing something bad, understand evil themselves, and that's what they chose. So if they chose to understand that, then they got to. I don't understand why it's a punishment.
Yeah, because they didn't choose to do it. They didn't know. They had no knowledge that what they were doing wrong. You even said that in your own definition when you were explaining it, which is why I didn't push back on where's your evidence of the force, because I was going to push back on that. You even said that they didn't have the knowledge, right? You even went back on that. So like they don't know. They don't know, thus God punished them for something they were incapable of knowing. They were punished. It's an unjust punishment. In fact, God not only punished them, but punished all of humanity according to the Bible.
Okay, I don't want to repeat myself, and
That's fine. That's fine.
um
But let's move
yeah.
forward. Let's move forward from that. Do you think it's ever justified to unalive children for the sins of their parents?
Okay, just give me the example first. Let's not start with the concept yet.
Yeah, are you familiar with what happened to the Amalekites? Yeah,
No, I'm
so
not.
um, the Amalekites were a group of people that when the Israelites came out of Egypt, they come out of Egypt and they get attacked by the Amalekites, and they absolutely destroy the Amalekites, completely destroy them. And they go. And then 400 years later, during the time of Saul, God comes, and this is going to be in Samuel chapter 1, or 1 Samuel chapter 15. And he says, now go and attack the Amalekites. Oh, sorry, let me actually start in verse 1, not verse 3. Samuel said to Saul, the Lord sent me to anoint you king over his people Israel. Now therefore listen to the words of the Lord. Thus says the Lord of hosts, I will punish the Amalekites for what they did in opposing the Israelites when they came up out of Egypt. Now go and attack Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have. Do not spare them, but kill both man and woman, child and infant, ox, sheep, camel, and donkey. So they go, and it's for a sin that happened. Yeah, and it's for a sin that happened
just wanna confirm this
400
point.
years ago.
Yeah.
These are like at least these are like great like 20 great grandparents in here. And yeah, Chad is mentioning, are you like rolling your microphone on the ground?
Why does it?
Yeah,
sound
I
like
can try to see if we can turn you down over here on the soundboard. But yeah, so the question is then, why did God command that these people that did not commit this atrocity against the Israelites, they didn't attack the Israelites. Why is this just God attacking them?
So they did try to stop them.
Yeah, so the Israelites came out of Egypt and they were crossing the Amalekites' land, and the Amalekites said, hey, we don't want you crossing our land. And so they attacked them, and then God was with the Israelites, and so they won. The Israelites won, and then they passed through and ended up settling in Israel, in the kingdom of Israel. And then, again, 400 years later, during the reign of King Saul, Samuel comes and says, hey, God said, go attack them for what they did 400 years ago.
All right. So first, I'd like to point out that this is Old
Mm-hmm.
Testament, right? And you're comparing that with New Testament.
No, Jesus
So
supports.
that's not
Jesus
reason to
supports
work
the
out.
Old Testament. Have you read Mark 7?
Yeah, I know he does.
Yeah,
I know he
and
does.
have you?
But when
And do you
Jesus
believe
came,
that? Do you another clarifying? Do you believe that Jesus is God? Yeah. So why did
Yes.
Jesus, being God, why did Jesus command Saul to go attack the Israelites or the Amalekites?
All right. Wait. First of all, right? It's the old. I just want to say the Old Testament was more of about the force of good versus evil. The New Testament was more about Jesus and how
Yeah.
we
So what
should
was
be
my
good.
question, and how did that answer
So
it?
so that exactly. So
Oh.
basically, um, you could say those Amalekites or whatever. Well, can you tell me how to pronounce those?
Yeah, whatever you just rubbed your microphone on, you owe both chats an apology for anybody wearing earbuds. I don't know,
What
you
happened?
drug your microphone and it made a loud noise in everybody's earbuds. But yeah, but the question is though, why, right, if it is Jesus, right, why is he attacking the Amalekites, commanding a complete genocide for a sin that they didn't commit?
Well, they did.
No, they
They
didn't. Their ancestors
them
did.
when
Their
God was-
ancestors did 400 years prior.
Yeah, because like I said, the Old Testament's more of a force of good versus force of evil. So the Israelites were for force of good, and the Amalekites were a force of evil. They were controlled
Oh,
mostly
how do you
by
know that?
Satan,
What's your
I'd
evidence of
say.
that?
So they had to put an end to them.
What's your evidence of that?
What are you suggesting they are? Are you suggesting they don't have
No,
it?
I the Yeah, the scriptures actually don't suggest that at all. In fact, if you go to Deuteronomy, so this is long before Deuteronomy chapter 20, when we go down starting in verse 16, it says, "But as for the towns of these people, the Lord your God is giving you as an inheritance, you must not let anything that breathes remain alive." Now, I want you to notice that the Amalekites are not listed here, right? "Indeed, you shall annihilate them, the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, just as the Lord your God has commanded." Why? "So that they may not teach you to do all the abhorrent things that they do for their gods, and thus you sin against the Lord your God." So the Amalekites are not even listed in the one verse that would probably support your argument. But the Amalekites aren't listed in there, right? And the Lord literally says that the only reason why he's attacking them is he's like, "Hey, remember when they attacked us 400 years ago? Yeah, I want to unalive them for that."
So, did you expect it to list every single evil group ever
Well, you just
in
need,
that time period? Did
yeah,
you
you just need to
expect that?
provide the evidence that they were being evil against the Israelites or evil in general. You just need to provide that evidence.
They were evil because they attacked them.
Yeah, for
They were evil because they attacked people.
yeah,
of God.
400 years later, they're attacking. They're unaliving them. God's commanding this
And they're still
genocide.
the same
They're
people.
not. They're not. You don't think that over 400 years, nations can't utilize and change? Do you think nations stay the same in over a period of 400 years?
Nations, we talk about nations in the Old Testament. When Jesus came and died for our sins, he gave us more choice to choose if we were good and
No,
evil.
you have no
Back then, they
evidence
didn't
of that.
quite
You
have a
have
choice
no
because they were
evidence of
either
that.
controlled by
Now you're
God or
just lying. The whole purpose of the atonement, the entire purpose of it was so that, hey, as long as you believe in me, you're human, you're going to mess up, you're going to make mistakes. But hey, as long as you try and you believe
Yes.
in me, you can still fall short and I will pick up the slack. His atonement didn't change the minds of people. There wasn't no like magic change of people's
It
minds.
didn't. No. No, it
Yeah.
didn't.
So
It
you're
didn't.
yeah,
They
so
don't
you're
change
yeah,
it.
you did. You said that because I the question that I asked you that led with that was me saying that over 400 years nations can change. Well, I asked you, can they change their mentality as a nation over a period of 400 years? And you said no, not during the Old Testament, because during the New Testament with Jesus, that allowed people to have more choices. That was your statement, and that's not true, right? Do we still practice?
Okay, I like to
Okay, yes,
rephrase
go
it.
ahead and
Maybe you
rephrase
took it
then.
So the New Testament, right? Jesus died for our sins. Basically, evil from earth as a force was abolished, and people had the choice, not a new choice. I mean, a new choice, but the same mind.
Wait,
Evil is not the same,
evil's
but the
not a
new
force anymore
choice
today?
to choose
Evil's not a
for
force today?
themselves. It is a force, but in from the New Testament, a force from people themselves,
So is it or is it not a force?
and in the Old Testament, yeah, sure, it is. But in the Old Testament, it was a stronger force,
There's
and it
no
was
evidence.
not
Can you
from
show
within
me
people
me
themselves.
anywhere in the
So
New Testament where Jesus or Paul or anybody says that, hey, because of this, the force itself is going to be weaker? Can you show me that anywhere in scripture?
I have no, I'm not
Yeah,
memorized it,
that's not
but
the
that's
point.
what I
The
understood from
point
reading it. That's the point that
in
it follows.
fact, it is implied that the force gets stronger, right? No longer are you punished for actually committing crimes. Jesus institutes and says the force is going to be even worse because now you will be punished for thought crimes as well. So Jesus makes it worse. You're going to be punished for thought crimes as well. So it seems like the force got more powerful. And now you must rely on the trust of Jesus in order to overcome
Okay,
the stronger force of evil.
I feel like you're confirming my point. I want to. Did it say specifically that it got stronger?
No, you said it got weaker.
Did the Bible say the force got stronger?
No, it
The
implies
Bible said it got
it
weaker.
implies that it does because we're now being punished for thought crimes. And it states that there's going to
Yes,
be even
okay.
more war
Okay.
and more of all these atrocious acts. It states more, which would imply that we have a stronger force.
Okay, so it implies, I'd say that's not necessarily true, because the the forced choice or whatever, it's now up to us as individuals. Before it was up to the in the spiritual world, forces of good versus of God and versus Satan. Now it's more up to us as individuals. Now, if you want to say that we and that does actually mean it's stronger in some way because we have.
I can't anymore. I kicked him. I couldn't anymore. That was painful. I have never seen somebody jump through so many hoops in my life. Real quick, I'm going to go use the restroom real quick. Hanji or Rolly, can you do a promotion real quick? I'm going to go use the restroom.
Yeah.
And if there's somebody in the box, can you bring them up, please?
All right, guys, let's go ahead and tap the screen, share out the live. Let's see if we can get hosts up to 10K likes. I see 53 people in here, so double tapping shouldn't be that much of an issue to get these numbers up. Also, host has a gift goal of 100 chili peppers, heart me's, friendship bracelets, and team gifting also helps boost host into the algorithm. So that'll also help him immensely. Be sure to continuously share out the live. And if you don't really have any people to share it to, guess what? You can always, hit that little share button and copy the live stream. And that also pushes it as a share, but not too much though, because we don't want it to not catch. But thank you all so much for being here. Thank you so much for showing support. And let's go ahead and get these conversations going.
Man, AI is over there in YouTube chat saying he won the debate. AI, you were concussed. You didn't even know where you were at. Like you were flip flopping. Was the force stronger or weaker? Like you don't know. Did the force exist? Did it not exist? Oh. Guest is as delusional as his belief system. Absolutely. Can you guys see the guest in the box? I keep like over clicking.
Yeah, it's Kravis, your favorite troll.
Oh yeah, don't bring Kravis up. Yeah, I actually went and listened to the actual guy, and the troll sounds nothing like him. But he does do a good job covering up his thing because he has like links and stuff that are like legit links. Yeah, all I heard was the Force, Jedi religion confirmed. Oh, Marilyn, thank you. Yes, I will get that done right after this. So I forgot I got off live. But I am. It is 1:00 here. I am going to let me check real quick. Make sure we don't have anybody there. I will be going live again later tonight. I have nobody, so I will call it here. Everybody, I do appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out. And we will be back later tonight. If you do want to debate, come back later tonight. I will see you then. And while we are waiting,